What's up, guys? Welcome to week number 42 of Goggins force training. We'll go ahead and start the video off with just some of the current round of PRI corrective work that I've been doing. This is my third progression through the different PRI drills designed to help with my asymmetrical weight shift issue that I've had in through my squat and deadlift, and at times and currently up into the shoulders. But I'll do something more in depth on them at some point in the future. I want to get some more time under my belt with doing these different drills, because at this week here you can still see I'm struggling to do this round. I've only had them for a couple of days. But the core, I guess not really assumption, but the assumption that the methodology comes from is that there are inherently asymmetries in the body due to the location of some of the organs and the heart, and how those things put different and uneven pressures on the diaphragm when it comes to bracing. And because of this, our breath cycle is affected and is also inherently asymmetrical, and because of this, it causes other asymmetries through other parts of the body that manifest themselves differently from person to person, but still come down to a very similar list of root causes. And so while those drills may look very similar to kind of muscle activation work, and to some degree it is, the emphasis of each of those different positions and drills is more on the breath cycle while held in that activation type position. So it's definitely different. I suck at that round of them still, and we'll probably need a few weeks for them to kind of settle in. But this has been by far the most effective tool that I've used in the last, now coming up on year and a half, 2 years, I guess, probably closer to 2 years of fighting through that hip shift. And definitely excited to see how those are going. But I attribute a lot of my being able to get back to more regular training and everything to those different PRI drills. So it's not necessarily in and of itself going to be the only tool or lens that I use to look at the problem, but it has definitely been a huge help in addition to all the other things that I've done and tried. So that brings us to this squat workout. Had 5 triples at 380, all of which moved relatively well. I believe on this day I was having a little bit of shifting, but I moved the camera to this backside here, and you can see I was also doing some of the worst bracing that I've done in like I don't know, several years. I have no idea why, but I'm sitting back basically unhinging all of everything and then rocking my way back up off the box, which is not how I would recommend or how I teach doing a box squat. So I don't know what the fuck I was doing here. But regardless, they still moved relatively well. I just didn't feel very confident in the movement that day just because it felt shitty, and then I turned the camera around and big freaking surprise. So bring us to the light bench day. Because of some of the tightness I've had in through my right scapula, which is a byproduct of me untwisting my hips, my upper body has kind of been fighting me as well. This bench day I've added a lot of other corrective type movements, things to help get some more mobility in through the scapula and to kind of activate some of the other muscles of the shoulder. So I do things like the banded rotator cuff cleans that you see here, really focusing on that external rotation of the shoulder to balance out the internal rotation pressures that you get from lots of pressing work. I do sets of 15 on both arms with those. Also, you do just banded pull-aparts, which I'm sure everybody and their mother has already done, so it's nothing too revolutionary there. I do those for sets of between 20 to 25 reps. And then I also do another movement that is, I guess you could call it like a shoulder adduction or like a kind of a lat activation drill. What I try to imagine when I'm doing that is that I am pulling my side of my palm into my side using nothing but the lat, and just kind of based on how I stand and where I'm pulling the hand, whether it's slightly in front of the midline of my body or directly in line with it, I can kind of feel differing levels of lat activation while doing that movement. and if I do that well, I can feel that I am starting to create some movement in through the scapula when that tends to get tacked down. So that, in conjunction with then integrating all of those things into a stabilization type press here with the bottom up kettlebell presses, tends to make the shoulders feel really good, and has also helped my bench feel good again. So these went pretty well, probably the best that they've gone so far. As you can see, I'm still having some issues getting full extension of the arm in that overhead position, but it is still improving. So I think that with some soft tissue work in through the shoulder blades and everything will probably clear that issue up in the next week or so. But they're definitely helping with that stability portion of it. So that brings us to the deadlift day. Steve wanted me to go ahead and hit another workout with the RDLs. So we bumped those up by about 30 pounds, and I did a 5x5 with 345. Yeah, there's nothing. I got nothing to say about them. I just did them. So did that. Did some single leg curl work, some single leg reverse hypers. Kind of toned back the rowing just because I had done the work on getting the shoulder blade loose, and I didn't want to necessarily fuck it all up by trying to do shrugs and things like that. So the pulling and rowing variations that I did were a little bit more corrective and lighter in nature than they would have everything felt 100% and through the shoulders that week. So did all 5 sets of 5 there, and then on Saturday for the bench workout, brought everything up to 315. That felt pretty good. I had a little bit of instability issues with bench on some of the warm-ups, but I was supersetting these, or the main bench work, with some of the banded activation work and the bottom-up kettlebell presses that you saw from the light bench day, and that helped to get everything opened up. So after that first set of bench, everything was feeling more or less pretty good. The weight didn't feel heavy in my hands, and it was moving well. I had a pretty consistent touch point. It just felt on some of the reps like I was having a hard time fully extending the arm, and I think that's just because the scapula is still kind of tight and I don't have full motion in it like I should. So what I will probably do, rather than trying to progress the weight up next week, is just take this same weight again and then shoot for, I think, maybe sets of 8 to 10, probably touch and go, just because I feel like with the pause bench it lets me cheat some of the, not really mobility, but cheat, I guess, some of the motion, because I can kind of rest on the chest and I get so much speed out of my leg drive that if things are feeling off, I can still make a pretty decent looking rep to somebody who's not watched me bench, but I can feel the difference. So I think if I can get all of this cleaned up in the next week or so, I should be pretty easily able to hit 4 sets of like 8 to 10 with 315. So I'll probably take that touch and go, so that way it is a little bit harder and forces me to get tight and hold position better. So other than that, was happy to have a little bit of weight in my hands. The 315 is the heaviest that I've gotten to work with since the meet, since I had a little bit of that shoulder issue and started PRI and fixing my hips. But I am heading back towards being a fully functioning three lift lifter. So just a little bit more work to do, but I'm definitely heading in the right direction with the PRI drills. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the gym's website at savagegym.com and check out deadlifts for dornbecker.com for all of the information and updates on our big annual upcoming charity lifting event. So that is it. I will talk to you next week. Thanks.
Better.